Hi, I'm with Phil Knox from the EA, specialist in missiology and evangelism. I'm telling Phil, I've just written a few words on green shoots or new shoots of life for our newsletter, and just talking over lunch, thought it'd be great if Phil could give us an update with what he's seeing around the country. So Phil, in no more than 45 minutes, over to you.
Absolutely. I don't know about anybody else watching this, but for most of our lifetimes, we've seen very depressing stats. Whenever any kind of census stuff has come out, it's been about the decline of church and the decline of church attendance. Well, over the last 4 months, 4 pieces of research have come out which tell a completely different story and encourages that God's really on the move. So first of all, you had this piece of research that interviewed 10,000 people, reported in The Independent a few months ago, and that said that just 13% of under 25s don't believe in God. That Generation Z is half as likely to be atheist as their parents. It's something happening amongst Gen Z. And then we had this piece of research in the Times that came out the next month. And in the Times, they reported that Bible sales between 2019 and 24 had increased by 87%. People are buying Bibles. Then we found out that there was a piece of research done by Comres, where they talked to 2,000 students across the UK. And they asked these students about their attitudes towards the Bible. And of all students, not just Christians, of all students in the UK, we found out that 29% read the Bible at least once a week. Right. And that 33% of non-Christian students would be up for reading the Bible with a Christian friend if invited to do so. So all these pieces of research were forming a picture. And then a couple of weeks ago, there was a piece called The Quiet Revival, which YouGov did, who are the same kind of people who do kind of government polling and all that kind of stuff. They interviewed 13,000 people as a representative sample, so it's fairly robust. And what this piece found is that in the last 6 years, 2 million more people are going to church than there were 6 years ago. And that especially amongst Gen Z, amongst 18 to 25-year-olds, that church attendance 6 years ago, 4% of people in that age group went to church. It's now 16%. Amongst young men, it's 21%. So there's something happening, and I think whatever you're seeing wherever you are, I think one of the great things for us to reflect on at the moment is God really is on the move. And I think in our nation, partly because of the meaning crisis, partly because of the pressure on people's lives, partly because I think God's waking us up, God really is doing something. The spiritual temperature is rising.
So we need to look at our response to that. What's our response to that, Phil?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is we can be really hopeful and celebrate. I think that, for those of us who faced a lot of bad news around this stuff, we can celebrate. I think it's okay to be cautious if we're not seeing it locally, but let's not become cynical, because I don't know about anybody else. I've been praying for this for most of my life, and I'm really hopeful that's true. I think the first thing, we can be cautious, but let's celebrate, and let's celebrate it's happening across the whole church. The second thing I think we should be doing is praying for more. I think I was asked recently whether revival is happening, and if it is revival, I hope revival is better than what we're seeing, because I want to see millions more people come to faith, and want to see it in my own friends and my own church community. Hopefully what we're seeing at the moment is the first fruits, so the kind of the pitter patter of raindrops before the kind of the storm, the floods of God's mercy rises, seeing millions of people come to faith. So I think that's the first thing. And the third thing is within our churches, let's prepare for it. Yeah. I'm hearing loads of stories of people coming to church, turning up just out the blue, but they've had some kind of spiritual experience. We've just done some research as the Evangelical Alliance into how people are coming to faith and what their stories are, and many people having spiritual experiences, dreams before they come along to church, but actually are going to church to help them along the journey. Let's be ready for that. Let's be praying for more, but also let's be ready to disciple people along the way, and be open to what God's doing in this season.
Phil, fantastic. Let's press on. Let's pray on. God be with you.